Montessori Grandma. Episode 29. The Story of Human Migration.
The Story of Human Migration, a Montessori history lesson, written and presented by Geeta Vijayachandran. Aim of the story: to help the children understand that the movements of peoples has helped in the spread of civilizations and the development of human beings. Montessori views history as positive, but the children will discover that violent exchanges are part of human history. The story of human migration. This consists of charts that trace human migration up to 3.5 million years ago. The charts show where the ancient humans migrated and locations where artifacts have been found. This lesson sparks the interest of children and leads them to research about humans spreading around the earth. Migration is the movement of human beings. There are three parts to this lesson. First, history of migration. Second, classification of types of migration. And third, observations. Materials. There are two maps about the desert. The first is a world map with major deserts of the world named and labeled. The second is the African continent with parts colored. Bright red is a true desert, and the part of the desert on the increase is in pink. There are three impressionistic charts. The first is clearing of the forests. The second is before the advancement of the desert. And the third one is after the advancement of the desert. You can collect pictures which will illustrate the ideas you will be presenting. Examples: deserts, glaciers, clearing of forests, and also provide books to do research. History of migration is the quest for water. The search for water is connected to climate. Remember, life began in water. The civilizations were developed along bodies of water. We know water is very important and was not always available to human beings. Water was not available in the desert. Water is very deep down in the ground and can't be reached. In glaciers, water is locked up as ice. Early hominids were more suited to dry climates and evolved as Africa's dry savanna regions expanded. Humans are the only known species to have successfully populated, adapted to, and significantly altered a wide variety of land regions across the world, resulting in profound historical and environmental impacts. Hominids diverged from other primates somewhere between 2.5 and 4 million years ago in eastern and southern Africa. Early tree-dwelling hominids may have been pushed out of their homes as environmental changes caused the forest regions to shrink and the size of the savanna to expand. These changes may have caused them to adapt to living on the ground and walking upright instead of climbing. Hominids continue to evolve and develop unique characteristics. Their brain capacities increased, and approximately 2.3 million years ago, a hominid known as Homo habilis began to make and use simple tools. By a million years ago, some hominid species, particularly Homo erectus, began to migrate out of Africa and into Eurasia, where they began to make other advances like controlling fire. Though there were once many kinds of hominids, only one remains: Homo sapiens. Extinction is a normal part of evolution. Between 70,000 and 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began migrating from the African continent and populating parts of Europe and Asia. Homo sapiens kept exploring until they spread to all corners of the earth. How far and fast they went depended on climate, the pressures of population, and the invention of boats and other technologies. Less tangible qualities also sped their footsteps. Imagination, adaptability, and an innate curiosity about what lay over the next hill. Ice ages made people move. When the glacier appeared, the people began to move. The vegetation moved first, then the animals, and then the people followed the animals. Racial characteristics came from mixing and intermingling of peoples. These are the consequences of the climate and the changes thereof. The mixing of people also means changes in the languages. The way of life for some people would have been altered in relation to learning new types of skills, using utensils, some sharing of new knowledge, and exchanges of items. In the beginning, the crops gave a lot of yield. Food was in abundance as there was plenty of rainfall. They cultivated grains and plenty of vegetables. But over the years, the crops became scarce. Savannas arose as rainfall progressively lessened in the edges of the tropics. People in warm periods began to move again. This means an increase in vegetation. They could now live where it was once cold. How did they decide where to live? Perhaps they had to fight with others. Perhaps they migrated to a distant place because this was more adventurous. They followed the vegetation and the animals. The migration of human beings have been affected by changes in places like deserts and glaciers. Here is a map that shows the distribution of deserts in the world. What about life in the desert? We know people live there and they have a problem finding water. We know water is important for life. Let's look at a particular continent. Here we have Africa, and it has two big deserts, the Kalahari and the Sahara. The red shows deserts. The area in pink shows scrublands, and this shows deserts are spreading. The forest is giving way to the steppe, and the steppe is giving way to the desert. This helps the children understand the desert is increasing in size. Clearing the forest. We see the trees are being cut down. Do you see where the people have settled? By the water. They have houses and are cutting the forests. Some are plowing, planting, and so on. There are other groups of people who seem to be leaving as the land doesn't seem fertile anymore. They are probably going to another forest. They will cut and clear the forest to make room to live and plant. Their crops deteriorate, so they simply move on and clear another patch of land to live on. The land was cleared and cultivation was done for a few years. This is how it looked like before the advancement of the desert. But as years went by, the landform changed completely. That land also became barren and useless. So the people kept moving into the forest, hunting, clearing, and cultivating on the forest land. This is how it looked after the advancement of the desert. People did not know what to do. The land and forest became a large barren piece of land. They had to find a solution. They had to move out to better places. They walked and walked and finally found land and water. They decided to make that place their home. Let us look at different ways that migration took place according to Dr. Montessori. She made 10 charts to explain this. 1. Small homogeneous groups. This chart tells us about a certain type of migration. Early humans were organized into groups. Here we are looking at 5 groups. We have brown, which represents a population, and yellow around the brown represents territory where they live. It is a small territory, and there are small groups who have everything to satisfy their needs. The territory for hunting is limited, but is enough to satisfy needs. Each group lives at a certain distance from each other. The distance between groups show peace between the groups. Each generation traveled 25 kilometers. Each generation is calculated as 20 years. Human beings did not move very fast in a short time. They stayed till the territory was exhausted of its resources. 2. Infiltration into unoccupied space. We can see a new set of people in green. The brown represents homogeneous groups, yellow, the territory, green, the groups of people who have moved into unoccupied territory. They have infiltrated the areas between the small groups. We can see they have infiltrated the gaps and not touched the groups. These people were able to enter easily as there was no resistance. The five original groups found themselves surrounded and so squeezed into a little net from which they could not escape. 3. Penetration into another's territory, infiltration and fusion. Three colors are used for three different groups of people, all equally powerful: blue, yellow, and brown. They are so powerful that they engulf the people living there. Over time, more powerful people, that's the red, have infiltrated into the territory of these three groups. They have mixed and the three have almost disappeared. The curvilinear triangle shows that they have not disappeared completely. There is a memory and they may still want to remember their roots. A culture develops and is so strong that it replaces the other existing culture. This is called melting pot and takes place through school curriculum, minority, religion, and other types of living. 4. Raiding and slavery. The black populations don't occupy all the territory. The green occupies all the territory. The black takes the green into slavery by force and incorporates them into their territory. Maybe they needed workers for the land, factories, etc. Hebrew in Egypt, African Americans in North America are examples. The consequences are that the black are strong and want others to work for them. The green area is now empty and an unoccupied territory. 5 shows passive movement. The green people have to leave their territory for some reason, maybe because of powerful people coming to their territories. They invade the territory of red people. The red people don't want to fight, and so they end up entering a third territory. 5A. Billiard ball movement. The black ball hits the yellow and it moves into a new position. Each ball continues to hit the next and it's a chain reaction. Each ball therefore displaces the next ball and then takes its place. Each ball represents groups or populations of peoples. Warriors like people begin this type of migration. People moving into unoccupied territories is where this movement stops. These groups don't learn from each other. They have no exchanging. 6. Traction. Different size circles and different colors represent different people with different power and different population. Largest group is red. They exert so much power of attraction that all others end up being around them. It's like powerful people attract the others. The spiral shows all colored groups that were present and now they're all mixed up. 6A. The horde, immigration. This shows the mixing of three primary colors, yellow, blue, and red, to get green and brown. We can see people in movement. The red people also are in movement. There is a fusion between people which is very powerful. It is as if there is a road. The people are so powerful that they are dragging others behind them. The last swirl makes a whirlpool of peoples unable to separate. 7. Explosion and dispersal. Only one color, single population. It seems the people are being expelled, dispersed. This represents movements which are sudden and violent, like the elements of an explosion. Reasons for this could be epidemics, sickness, famine, volcanic eruptions, that is, natural disasters, fear of political situation, or religious persecutions. They have no home territory anymore. 8. Drifting by water. The yellow shows islands and blue shows ocean currents. The blue line is an ocean current flowing through the ocean. Here we see land masses. Remember, we did ocean currents. The early humans used boats and rode those currents and traveled to new places. They would stay close to the land, but may have been swept away by the ocean currents. They might drift and perhaps find a new island. This shows that in the beginning people had no control about where they were going. As people had gained more control over their boat, they might choose to explore and settle in new places. 9. Breaking of walls. On one side is the sea, and on the other side is fertile land. The pressure increases and water breaks the wall and flows through. The wall, which acts like a barrier between sea and land, breaks. This is the same with people. A large and powerful group of people break into an area. The wall represents protection for the people on the inside. Others see life on the inside good and want to get inside. Outside the walls, we have people like barbarians who are on the move, and they sweep down on other people and find weak spots in their walls and break through. Why can't people inside protect themselves? Perhaps they weren't ready for the attack. 10. Migration in Europe. In this map, we can see a lot of invasions, and this shows how people migrated to Europe from Asia and Africa. The red arrows represents migrations which lasted for 600 years, that is, from half of the 2nd century to the middle of the 9th century. You can see that there are arrows in two directions. The first arrow, the arrows from north to south, indicate invasion of barbarians, both as Asiatic and Germanic. This started from 3rd century to end of 6th century and lasted for 226 years, and the place where it started was called Goths, that is South Sweden. The second arrow from south shows Arabic invasions. In 632 AD, Muhammad died, and 2 years later, the Arabs invaded countries led by the caliphs. Those are the successors of Prophet Muhammad. Islam spread in three directions. First, east towards Syria, Palestine, Persia, and Egypt. Second, towards Middle East, towards northern Africa, Sicily, Spain, and Rome. And third, towards Central Asia. However, 215 years later, Muhammad's death in 439 AD, Arabs were defeated close to Rome, bringing an end to the Arab invasion. Montessori says, stagnation means death. Movement of people accompanied by mixing of people represents life. Montessori looks at life of people, life of whole community with a grand view. Today, migration and movement are a part of human life. Humans move around for a variety of reasons called push and pull factors. Some common push and pull factors are jobs, war, family, and money. After the lesson, children can research different deserts of the world. We know that people move in different directions and then they meet people living in other places. Research can involve where are people moving? Out of their own region? What problems arise when they meet others? Are they welcomed? Is there conflict? Note that in our day, this is still happening. We have movements of people in Africa, Gaza, Israel, Ukraine, etc. Unity is our strength. Wherever we are, we can see interchange of culture, food, and religion. Respect and love for others keeps humanity together. Let us join hands and bring peace on earth. That takes us to the end of the story of human migration. Thank you for watching. This is Geeta Vijayachandran signing off.
Montessori Grandma.